Pretty usual reading on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Let's take a look at some altcoins today, and I don't have good news. So don't close the video on me, just let it play through, put me on mute. But alts haven't been the play. They continue to not be the play. Those are, of course, listed alts. Now, if you're in the DEX trenches trading 5-minute old coins and you're scratching those lottery tickets, then that's a different game entirely. But if we look at Bitcoin dominance, it has been bullish on the cloud since at least 2023. And at no point here has any of this flipped on trend. What you're looking for is a bearish TK cross minimum, and we haven't even had that. Something else to look for would be a bearish chart pattern. We certainly haven't had that. We've had a series of inverted head and shoulders here on the way up, and this looks fine, continues to look fine. There's no issue with dominance rolling over at all here. So if you want to use this as your guiding light, which some people do, some people don't care. When I tell people they should measure everything in BTC, they get angry at me and say, you're going to miss setups on USD. That's true, but you're also not going to lose money randomly by sitting in the less risky benchmark, which is BTC. Now this is total 2 in USD, and this looks great, looks fine, looks bullish. No issues here. You could call this a massive cup and handle. This is basically Solana and ETH put together. We're above the 200-day, we're above the cloud, we're getting stables printing. Everything's fine there, but that's not the real story. You know, this is the real story. And I'll take a look at total 3 over BTC in a second for the people who think this is just ETH. That's not the case. I mean, it continues to be the same picture since 2022. Nothing really has changed here. We've had a series of attempts to hold the lows, but every question and answer you get, it's more lows, more lows, more lows. Even here, like you can always guess, right? I say this every video. You can guess and think that this is the bottom. There's nothing wrong with that, but the odds are against you, certainly, just based on trend. The trend is your friend, and your friend is bearish alts, bullish BTC. That's your friend right now. ETH BTC, of course, in a whole different planet of bearishness compared to a lot of things right now. And it's to the point where you got to wonder what's really going on here. Is there some sort of minting bug? No, there's nothing that serious, but it's losing the old inverted head and shoulders support resistance line. It's losing a yearly pivot here. I really don't think this goes to O2. I really don't, but there's nothing more bearish than a slow bleed. There's nothing more bearish than giving up every single high over and over again. At any point here, any positive momentum is immediately squashed down. So I would want to see bare minimum some sort of multi-month bottom, a wick. Just stop making lows. Let's start there, right? Let's just start there. Stop making lows. We can talk about the cloud and the 50-week moving average and all this other fun stuff, but let's just start with, hey, let's go sideways for a little bit and see what happens. We have not had that for quite some time. So this looks very, very bad, very no bueno. This is total 3 against BTC. Same story. Bearish since 2023. The cloud tells no lies. Bearish cloud, bearish TK cross. I will be there, the first person standing in line when total 3 BTC flips bullish or total 2 BTC flips bullish. But this does not look good for alts, excluding ETH, against Bitcoin. We'll take a look at Sol BTC, and that's the one chart that probably does okay later on, but it's in a massive ascending triangle. So from a opportunity cost, I don't hate holding a little bit of Sol because that chart looks okay, but everything else, you are slowly getting diluted, basically. I mean, you're just losing purchasing power against BTC slowly but surely. DeFi Llama recently added the narrative tracker, just as another way to look. What is beating BTC here? You can measure this in ETH and Sol and whatever you want. These are all the categories down here. But for the most part, year to date, 365, pick any time frame you want. For the most part, it's very hard to overperform BTC, and it's very hard to hold on to those gains over a period of time. Now, of course, the pro altcoin traders will tell me that they can get in and out and snipe the low and top tick whatever meme coin they're in. But realistically, I'd want at least a 2x outperformance on an alt relative to BTC, and very few categories have done this over the past year. When you dig into these categories, a lot of this stuff just basically isn't realistically tradable or is unlisted or doesn't have volume or liquidity. A lot of this stuff is nothing I've ever heard of on the meme side. I have no idea what all this stuff is. Moodang I've heard of, Peanut the squirrel I've heard of, but everything else here, I have no idea. No idea. Anyway, but if you want to play around with that, I'll put that in the link. Put that link in the description of the video. We've also got the Google Trends check-in with app rank. Top right here is today. It's getting warmer, but Google Trends still very low, although they are rising quickly, and monthly RSI still rather low. So just as a gauge for like retail sentiment, I'm not seeing a lot of euphoria on my timeline other than like MSTR people, probably because most of the alt people are still underwater. Looking at NFTs quickly, this is CryptoPunks over past 6 months. It has broken out, but it's just regained the losses from the past 6 months, right? Zoomed way out, still basically flatline, not much going on there. Bored Apes broke up a little bit, still basically flatlined, not much going on there relative to USD. I bet you at some point these are going to start to look better. I mean, if I put the cloud on this, my guess is we would be bottoming on the cloud. So this stuff looks okay. Still not for me, but I can understand where people are dipping their toe back into NFTs. Pudgy Penguins up over the past 5-6 months, basically break even. Milady's up quite a bit. I don't think that's a new all-time high, but it's close. So for the most part, NFTs have bounced, but they're really just making gains on losses that they've made over the past 6 months. And then this is the watch index, just to see the speculative froth in the mind of the watch collector. Basically flat. So this looks like it needs more time, but it's a good sign that it hasn't made a new lower low. But all in all, looking at the comps, looking at the benchmark, this is where your head needs to be. So even though I have a list for today, this really isn't the list you need to look at. I mean, we'll take a look at some BTC pairs, but that is the ultimate equalizer. What is it relative to BTC? I don't care if you're trading MSTR, if you're trading miners, NVIDIA, it doesn't matter. You need to know how that's doing against BTC if you want BTC as a part of your portfolio. Before I go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrencies and services are provided to US and US territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, and Kraken. So BTC, for the most part, has just been hanging out here at all-time highs. I think it briefly tapped 95. It had a very low time frame ascending triangle that it's working on here. You can see it. You're getting a series of lows. Some people drawing this as a rising wedge. Okay, fine. I mean, if you really want to call it top, go for it. But it looks like we're trying to push out of this higher. Slow grind is fine by me. On a daily cloud, we're still pretty far above the TK line. So that's my only caution here. We just went up very quickly, kind of similar to February, March, where we had a big move higher, paused for 10 days, and then went higher again. I'm getting similar vibes here. And for the most part, what I've noticed, alts not catching up, not keeping up. Most of my list is red on any given day. You'll have BTC down 0.5% intraday, and then alts will be down 2%. And then BTC will bounce, and alts will stay negative. So I'm just reading the tape. I'm just trading what I'm seeing, right? And again, if you're trading alts, basically leverage, you want at least 2x outperformance from the alt you're trading. So any alt that isn't up 5% today is basically a loss for me in my head. And that's most of this list. Most of this list is not up 5%. In fact, it's the other way. It's down 5%. But BTC looks good. You could say it's overbought. You could say, I guess there's a little bit of a div starting there on RSI, but I'm not super worried about it. Low time frames still look good to me. If low time frames looked more like a reversal pattern, inverted Adam and Eve, head and shoulders, a rising wedge, I would be a little bit more cautious here as I was on Friday, but this looks totally fine to me. I have no issues with this. One of the things you can watch is like the hourly cloud. If the hourly cloud starts to tip bearish, then I would be a little bit more concerned for the downside. Sol has done okay. It has not kept up with BTC, but it hasn't gone the other direction. Low time frame Sol is some sort of head and shoulders attempt there on the hourly. On the daily, it looks okay. This measures higher, this range. If I have this specced out already? I do not. So what? 300, let's just call it, right? Take the depth of the range, measure it higher. That is the case forever and always. I'm getting a ton of questions on this. You always, what's the depth of the consolidation? You take that and you move it higher on the breakout. That is your target every time, never changes. So 300 roughly would be the level. And honestly, Sol looks fine here relative to everything else. Also a little bit of a bear div there, higher high in price, lower RSI. If we look at Sol BTC, I don't think I have that on my list, but Sol BTC, this is what I'm talking about. Most alts do not look anything like this, okay? Now, like I said a bunch of times, if you think this is a head and shoulder, if you think this is a cup and handle, then you're probably just holding this, staking. You don't care. If you think Sol USD is a cup and handle, fine, whatever. This to me looks like an ascending triangle that should break up. This has a bullish bias. The cup and handle has a bullish bias. What you're eating here pre-breakout is opportunity cost against BTC, right? It hasn't really made any gains against BTC since December. There's a risk, of course, that it breaks up and then like ETH just goes south, but that's something to think about after the breakout to me. As we sit here now, this definitely looks like into 2025, maybe even Q2 2025, this wants to break up, but now is not the time by the looks of it for this to break up. Doge on the USD pair, also, maybe it's a flag. It certainly hit the target. I don't really have any fresh ideas up here. That's why you watch this for months consolidating and you take a real sized trade with a decent target higher. I certainly feel less comfortable being long a meme coin up here than I do BTC. I would definitely love to see this settle down a little bit. Love to see this potentially retrace, but it looks fine. I don't have any feelings on it one way or the other. It looks indifferent to me. We might have a Doge BTC pair. Let me look here. Yeah, okay, let's just check. Kind of similar story. Had a falling wedge. Looks like it broke out. Looks fine. You just got to give this stuff time. Really one of the few that actually looks decent on the BTC pair. Ripple has broken out of its multi-month wedge, megaphone, whatever you want to call this, inverted head and shoulders, and it reached the target super quickly. So now the next question, like Doge, is this a flag? Is it reconsolidating? It looks okay up here. It doesn't look terrible. Definitely looks very flag-like. So I don't think it would be unreasonable for Ripple to keep going along with BTC. ETH, on the other hand, man, just shows you how far down the volume list this is. Below Sol, Doge, and Ripple is ETH. ETH really hasn't done anything. I had thought that this week, potentially, we would get this ABCD type idea with a breakout at least above 3,500. But low time frames just look uninspiring and heavy. And I wouldn't short this, but it doesn't look like anything you'd want to pay attention to here, to me. For whatever reason, not many people want to touch this here. Cardano has broken out, reconsolidated, broke out, reconsolidated, broke out. Looks fine, looks okay. But again, this is the wrong chart to look at relative to BTCs where you want to be. If you're a Cardano maxi, you are saying this whole thing is some sort of double bottom, and this measures basically to all-time high retests. We'll call it $2. I don't know. But it certainly looks better than most alts. And on the BTC pair, still deeply below the weekly cloud, but it's trying to do something. The weekly Kijun is at 1,000 sats. Previously, that's where it's had trouble. Last time that was at 1,500 sats. Tap that way back down, right? So that's really the key level to watch on the BTC pair is 1,000 sats. Meme coins generally doing okay, kind of following Doge, but a lot of this just feels like the breakouts happened in a rolling fashion between Ripple, Cardano, Doge, some of the other meme coins, some of the other layer ones, and there's just not enough money in the system to keep pushing these higher, especially to keep pushing them all higher. This was the old setup for Pepe. It hit the target. I mean, you can watch the old videos. It's not like this is some magical level. It's just that's what the fibs measure to. That's typically what we see. That's why I use fibs. So beyond this, in the near term, I think it needs some time. The same with Bonk. It looks fine. It's just, like, do I want to take a trade up here? No, the time to take the trade was down here. This measures higher, I guess, depending on how you want to measure this. It's probably better to measure, if we do this, like something like this, then we're in the wheelhouse of, we're already there. It just looks like a lot of consolidation needs to take place here, or mean reversion on everything that includes BTC. For BTC, that level would be the Kijun, basically 78, let's call it, if we get a breakdown, if we get a mean reversion, which it doesn't feel like that's even possible in the moment here. Sui looks fine, also kind of droopy up there. Hourly cloud, certainly more bearish than BTC, but if you're taking a low time frame position, I like watching the 1 hour, the 4 hour, watching the TK cross recross stuff happen. So you have a full bear picture here on the hourly. The next trade I would look for would be a bullish cloud. So you'll probably see this over the next couple of days for Sui. That would be the entry I would be looking for on the cloud. ETH BTC we talked about. Just I'm always shocked each day this goes lower. I mean, not that it can't keep going, but you would just think at some point somebody would start buying this. Anybody, somebody. AVAX on the daily cloud looks okay. No issues here. I think eventually this thing continues. It was a laggard, if I remember correctly, in November. I think other stuff broke out first. But on trend, it looks fine. I'm not worried about any M double top or anything like that. I just think it needs time. Back to the memes with, it looks okay, but the problem with anything on Solana is you're competing with the 10,000 other coins on Solana that were created 2 seconds ago that people are trading, right? So not something I would sit in. If you get a good trade, I would take it. That's just me. As far as a decent profit, 30%, 40%, whatever. On Near, looks okay. Not really much going on there. It's above the cloud. Similar to AVAX, just waiting. Sol ETH is an interesting one. Similar to Bitcoin dominance, just keeps going higher. So maybe this is what you're looking for. On ETH strength would be either Bitcoin dominance or Sol ETH to turn around. But this has been bullish for quite some time and is still bullish. So not much to do there. There's your answer. If you want to use TA, I mean, that's your answer. BTC's beating it, and BTC's beating Sol. So there you go. Say, similar to AVAX, above the cloud, hasn't really broken out yet. Looks okay eventually. But again, you're eating like the opportunity cost of just sitting in the winter. I don't think there's a Say BTC chart on Kraken, but you're better off just doing nothing in Bitcoin, right? Like, why move around a bunch? .USD also similar to AVAX, broke out, looks okay, just needs time. LTC, kind of same deal. Broke out, has done a little bit better than AVAX, and DOT just needs time. Against BTC, still very bearish, has been bearish. It's really been a one-way ticket lower. I mean, that's just what LTC does against Bitcoin, right? Really not seeing a lot of strength on trend there. Apt looks okay. This one moved up with Sui and then kind of took a backseat, fell down the volume list here, but it looks fine overall. This or Apt, this or Sol or Apt, it would be Sol for me. That one looks stronger. This or Sui? I don't know. That's a tougher question. But these are the kinds of questions people are probably asking themselves. SHIB, I think that target, it almost reached, but this doesn't look like a trade here to me. Everything other than Doge looks fairly heavy. Curve tried to break out, looks okay on the daily. It has a massive diagonal resistance line to watch. We're almost there. Anything above 54 cents and you're probably home free. So I like alerts here at 54 cents, whatever this is, 53.4. I don't know why it's doing so well relative to everything else, but it has seemed to break out and it's playing as expected with the diamond bottom there potentially. Just something to keep an eye on in the periphery. Stinky Linky here is doing okay, just like AVAX. It's above the cloud, hasn't gone anywhere yet, but it looks fine. Yeah, if ETH ever breaks up, if ETH ever breaks 3,200 and holds it, ETH beta like Link should start to do better than it has been, but it looks okay there. TIA, I know a lot of people watching this thing, and the cloud is not going to lie to you. It is still bearish below the cloud. I like alerts at the cloud there, 570. Just got to be patient. It's trying to bottom for sure. It's trying to do something, but it has not made a higher high here since September. Just a series of lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So I would definitely give that one some time. Algo broke out more so than most everything else we've looked at, honestly, aside from Doge. So this looks okay on low time frames. It's just, it moved up in like 2 days, and now what, right? Do you play this as a double bottom over the long term? Do you ignore it? Do you dollar cost average? Do you have bids lower at like 17 cents? Maybe. I don't really understand why algo relative to everything else, but looks strong on trend. Certainly. FTM flat looks like a potential head and shoulders there. That's not for me. There's better stuff to trade out there. Aave also looks okay. You know, the trouble is some of this stuff, it's not really bearish. It's bullish, but it's also super hyper choppy. Do you really want to sit in this? I mean, some people do. I know some people do, but it's just not for me. Like, you know, it's, I can say it's not bearish, but I can also say I'd rather just not. I'd rather just not deal with whatever is going on here. It's clearly trying to go up, but very slowly, very slowly. ICP on the daily looks okay to me. It's above the daily cloud. It's trying to bottom. It's trying to triangle or triple bottom. Something's going on here. As long as it doesn't break the cloud lower, I still like this as a potential play into 2025. But you definitely have to be patient with a lot of this stuff. Because again, you got to think, people are looking at 10,000 alts or more. There has to be a special reason why something like this starts to pop off relative to everything else. Same thing with Filecoin. They basically trade the same. Looks okay down here. Similar to Link in AVAX and all that stuff. I think it'll have its day, maybe in December, maybe in January. But until BTC is 100K, it just feels like that's where everybody's at relative to some of these alts. JUP, I think, broke out relative to Sol. You know, it looks okay. This will do just as good as Sol is doing, if not better. So maybe something to think about. Down the road, Lido, just as bearish as ETH feels. This just hasn't gone anywhere. Maybe it's trying to bottom, maybe it isn't, but Cloud is giving you a straight answer there. PaxG gold against BTC. This is actually, if we flip this scale, I think a new all-time high. I think, at least gold against BTC, PaxG against BTC. I'm pretty sure it's basically there. And this is probably some sort of ascending triangle or something up here as well. So gold definitely losing to digital gold. And then helium down here. I would think that the deep-in sector would be doing better, but it just isn't. You know, that's just it. It hasn't done anything. It hasn't made higher highs. It continues to make lower lows. It had this head and shoulders thing a while back, got into the cloud, and now it just says stay out. So for the most part, there's really not much to do outside of BTC for me. But if you're thinking longer term, I would look for stuff that has a chance and looks similar to maybe Filecoin or Link or AVAX, ICP, where at least the cloud gives you its blessing and it has bottomed for the past 6 months. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.